rivalry between the Mughal Empire and the Rajput kingdoms remains one of the most defining conflicts in Indian history. It wasn't just a battle for power, but a clash of cultures, beliefs, and ideologies. The Mughal rulers, who came from a distant land, had a vision to expand their empire across the Indian subcontinent. The Rajputs, proud warriors with a long tradition of independence, stood firm against this foreign rule, defending their land, their families, and their honor. Their encounters would shape the destiny of India for centuries. The roots of the conflict can be traced back to the early 16th century, when Babur, a descendant of Timur and Genghis Khan, set his sights on India. In 1526, after defeating the Sultan of Delhi, Ibrahim Lodi, at the Battle of Panipat, Babur established the Mughal Empire. His victory marked the beginning of a new era in Indian history, one that would see the rise of a centralized empire that stretched across much of the subcontinent. But the Rajputs, who had established powerful kingdoms in regions like Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Malwa, were not ready to accept Mughal rule without resistance. The Rajputs had long held sway over vast territories and were known for their military prowess. They had been key players in the political landscape of northern India for centuries, often engaged in wars with the Delhi Sultanate. When the Mughals arrived, they faced a new and formidable challenge. The Rajputs, led by powerful kings like Rana Sanga of Mewar and Maharana Pratap of Rajputana, would not submit to foreign rule without a fight. The first major clash between the Mughals and the Rajputs occurred during the reign of Babur's son, Humayun. In the 1540s, Sher Shah Suri, a former Mughal general, defeated Humayun and established the Suri Empire. This defeat sent Humayun into exile, but during this period, the Rajput kingdoms remained largely independent as they were embroiled in their own rivalries. However, this sense of unity would not last long. In the early years of Akbar's reign, which began in 1556, the Mughal Empire began to assert its dominance over the Rajputs. Akbar, known for his administrative genius and his policy of religious tolerance, initially adopted a policy of conciliation with the Rajputs. He sought to incorporate Rajput rulers into his empire rather than destroy them. Akbar's marriage to Maria Muzamani, the daughter of Raja Barmal of Amber, was a key move in this strategy. The marriage solidified Akbar's relationship with the Rajputs, and many Rajput rulers agreed to offer their loyalty to the Mughal emperor in exchange for retaining control over their territories. However, not all Rajputs were willing to accept Mughal rule. Rana Sanga of Mewar, a formidable warrior who had already fought against the Mughals at the Battle of Khanwa in 1527, continued to resist Mughal expansion. The Battle of Khanwa was a turning point in the conflict, where Sanga's forces, despite their valiant efforts, were decisively defeated by Babur's army. This victory secured Babur's position, but it did not end the Rajput resistance. Rana Sanga's death in 1528 created a leadership vacuum in Mewar, but the Rajputs remained a thorn in the side of the Mughals. Maharana Pratap, a warrior who would become a symbol of Rajput resistance, rose to prominence in the mid-16th century. In 1576, Maharana Pratap faced Akbar's forces in the Battle of Haldigati, one of the most famous battles between the Mughals and the Rajputs. The battle, although inconclusive, became a defining moment in Rajput history. Maharana Pratap's determination to resist Mughal domination, even in the face of overwhelming odds, earned him respect and admiration across the region. Although the battle was a tactical defeat for Maharana Pratap, it was not the end of Rajput resistance. Maharana Pratap continued to harass Mughal forces, carrying out guerrilla raids and defying Akbar's authority. His relentless struggle and commitment to the independence of Mewar became legendary. Despite the Mughal Empire's vast military superiority, the Rajputs' resolve ensured that their culture and sovereignty would remain alive in the hearts of their people. The Rajput resistance was not confined to Mewar alone. Other Rajput kingdoms, such as Amber, Marwar, and Jodhpur, also resisted Mughal control at various points in history. The Rajput rulers, though sometimes divided among themselves, maintained a fierce independence that was difficult to break. However, as time passed and Akbar's empire grew in power and influence, many Rajput rulers came to see the benefits of cooperating with the Mughals. Akbar's policy of religious tolerance and the promise of political autonomy for Rajput rulers helped to secure their allegiance. Over time, most of the major Rajput kingdoms came under Mughal control, either through military conquest or alliances. The role of Rajput women in this period of conflict was also significant. Rajput women, known for their valor and determination, often played a central role in defending their kingdoms. The tradition of jauhar, the practice of self-immolation by Rajput women during times of siege or defeat, became a symbol of their commitment to honor and resistance. The sacrifices of Rajput women were seen as an expression of their unwavering loyalty to their families and their kingdoms. By the time of Akbar's successors, the Mughal Empire had become the dominant force in India. Jahangir, Akbar's son, continued his father's policy of incorporating Rajput rulers into the Mughal administration, and many Rajputs served as generals and ministers in the Mughal court. The Mughal-Rajput rivalry slowly transformed into a more complex relationship, with Rajputs occupying important positions within the Mughal bureaucracy and military. However, the Rajputs never fully embraced Mughal rule. Even under the reign of Aurangzeb, the last of the great Mughal emperors, Rajput resistance persisted in pockets of the empire. The decline of the Mughal Empire in the late 17th and early 18th centuries saw the rise of Rajput power once again. As the Mughals weakened, the Rajput kingdoms regained some of their lost territories, although they were never able to fully reclaim their former glory. The Mughals, despite their earlier successes, were no longer able to maintain the same level of control over their vast empire, and the Rajputs capitalized on this weakening to restore their influence in the region. The rivalry between the Mughals and the Rajputs ultimately defined an era in Indian history. It was a clash of cultures, where the Mughals sought to expand their empire through military conquest and political alliances, while the Rajputs fought to preserve their independence and honor. The legacy of this conflict is seen in the rich history of Rajasthan, where the Rajput culture continues to thrive to this day. The Mughal Empire, though it eventually crumbled, left behind a lasting impact on Indian architecture, art, and culture, much of which was influenced by Rajput traditions. The Mughal-Rajput rivalry is not just a story of military conflict, but also of resilience, adaptation, and the forging of new alliances. It is a tale of two great civilizations, each with its own strengths and weaknesses, each shaping the history of India in its own way. As we look back on this rivalry, we are reminded of the complex and often contentious relationships that have shaped the world we live in today. The Mughals and Rajputs may have been rivals, but they also shared a common heritage, one that helped to create the rich and diverse culture of India.